Ladies and gentlemen, join with me as I welcome to the lectern Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and political leader of the People's National Movement.
Because what don't kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them stick me on the ice, so ride all the storm, them just like a boat. So as the boat speed up, so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up. And every crack I see, I just see through. And by the help of God, I just get through. And I just won't stop. I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like
Thank you very much, Chairman of tonight's proceedings, Party Chairman, Mr. Franklin Khan, my many cabinet colleagues who are here this evening, particularly the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain, North and Downs West, Minister Stuart Young, who has the responsibility on Monday to report to the political leader that we have won Belmont East by a landslide. Other ministers, and I see in the audience we have the distinguished presence of the Mayor of Port of Spain. Welcome to a meeting, Mayor Joel Martinez, party officers all, members of the Belmont community, visitors, nationals at home. Tonight, I am very proud to lead a political organization which, in the face of a request from the Election and Boundaries Commission to contest a by-election in Belmont and another in Barataria, to have been able among our membership to have produced two of the finest young people in Trinidad and Tobago who have offered themselves for public office. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of having a similar meeting like this in Belmont, in Barataria, and present in that meeting was the grandmother of Kimberly Small, who is an octogenarian and a foundation member of the PNM, and this party should be proud. We have a very large number of local government seats, and the PNM now holds the majority of those seats across Trinidad. But unfortunately, as fate would have it, in recent times, we have lost two of our best councillors. I refer specifically to Councillor Daryl Rajpaul here in Belmont, who was one of the most highly respected local government officers in the PNM. And in Barataria, Councillor Pernell Bruno was another shining star in our local government crowd. Both of whom were called away in what we may want to regard too soon or in an untimely manner. But we have no control over that. We would like to say to their families and their communities that they were represented by the best, and now that we are called upon to replace them, we have also chosen people of a similar quality, and we expect that they will be supported in the same way. The trouble with the PNM for some people is that wherever they want to walk, the PNM would have passed there already. I find it quite amusing that our opponents appear not to have a single original political idea in their head or in their party. Because every time I hear them, the slogan that they have come up with is our old PNM slogan. I mean, I can't believe it. Enough is enough. PNM used that already. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be all right. That is Patrick Manning theme song. We care for you. We run a whole general election and we care. And of course, I expect that by Monday, they will pick up the last slogan they haven't copied yet, which is, the Balize is blooming again. And I suspect that the only reason why they have not copied that one yet is because the Balize is the only living political symbol that you can talk about growth and bloom, because what does the UNC represent? So, I follow the campaign. I'm not a candidate. I'm the leader of the political party that is responsible for guiding the organization which has produced Kimberly Small and Ms. Young here in Belmont. But I'm not a candidate. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning I'm going to Tobago for a couple of days. And if they find out, they'll complain about that too. But the campaign is shouting my name. The entire campaign is about shouting my name. Rowley doesn't care. Rowley doesn't care. Rowley doesn't care. Okay, good. So send a message to him. That send a message is another PNM slogan. We send that to the NAR. That was Maurice Marshall telling the NAR and telling people in the local government election in 1987, send a message to the NAR, which in fact had contained what is now the UNC. Every single slogan is a whole PNM slogan. But let me tell you something. I have no problem in receiving a message from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because on September 15th, 2015, you did send a message to me in the general election. And the message you sent to me was, go into office and provide Trinidad and Tobago with honest and cost-effective government. We accepted that message. And it is because we accepted that message that nowhere in the structure of this government, which has already passed halfway of its term, you will find a combination of Anil Roberts, Rudal Munilal, Ram Logan, Jerlin John, Ram Dean, Jack Warner, and Kamla. You sent me a message to run a government that does not include that. We heard you loud and clear, and today the government of Trinidad and Tobago is quite different to the government that was in place when I got that message. You also sent me another message. You said that government must be cost effective. So today, the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago is $50 million cheaper than the cabinet of the last government. 23 ministers as against 33. That is millions of dollars we're saving. And of course, the country is being run far more efficiently than it was when everybody was a boss and everybody was a prime minister in the last government. By this time in the last government, 3/4 of the cabinet had already experienced a 10 days as prime minister. Under this government, under this prime minister, I have been the prime minister, and to maintain good order in this country, when I'm out of the country, one member of the cabinet so far has been acting prime minister, because we are a serious government in a serious country doing serious business in a serious way. The record of this country will show that Vanilla Allen Topping was a prime minister in this country under Kamla Prasad Bisasa. It will show that Munilal was in the prime minister office, Rambachan was in the prime minister office, Pachak was in the... Was Anil ever there? He was the one next. He was next to go in there. The record of this country will show that it cannot be erased. But I tell you something. When we came into office in September, since 2014, our energy fortunes had begun to change because the price of oil had begun to go downwards. In this little book, which you all must have a copy just in case you forget what happened to you between 2010 and 2015. In this book, you will see where when oil price dropped to $84 per barrel, it was a crisis in 2014 under Larry Hawaii. $84 a barrel oil was a crisis in that government. We came into office, it continued to fall all the way down to $47 when we came in and went down to $28. And rather than understand that the government of the day then is having serious difficulty keeping body and soul together, they up and down the country trying to create discord, trying to make the country ungovernable. But I say tonight, I am proud of the people of Trinidad and Tobago because you have ignored them, you've stayed the course, and you will ignore them continuously because they have no good thought for this country. $28 a barrel oil. Gas price stuck at $2.50. Revenues dropped by 90%. But they want more this, they want more that, they want more this, they want... I can tell you, I am not in this as a popularity contest. What I'm in this is with a responsibility to do what has to be done so that the people of Trinidad and Tobago can have a good chance of getting out of whatever situation we are in. That is the job I am in. So, you gave us a message at that time, and the message you gave us about the economy was stabilize the economy and give us an opportunity to turn it around and bring about economic growth. From day one, every God in heaven thing we try to do, something wrong with it. They have an army of liars who put out there in social media or even on the newspapers. When we have not done anything wrong, they fabricate it and then argue with it. So that's how it's been. But we have not allowed that to distract us. We have stayed the course. On the simple matter of devaluing the currency. We could have done that and be popular with those who advise that. Take the line of least resistance. But by now, very many people would have been paying $10 for a pound of flour, $15 for half a pound of saltfish, and many going hungry because it is those at the base of the economic pyramid who feel the pain of a devaluation first. And when it happens, there are very few instances where it is reversed to prosperity. It usually continues along the road, right? Where you get less and less. And I'm going to ask all of them something. When you devalue the currency, does devaluation give you more foreign exchange? So, devaluing the currency will not increase the supply of foreign exchange. It will simply make expenditure in Trinidad and Tobago dollars more expensive. That's what they are offering you. But you send me a message, and I can tell you halfway past our term in office as government, the economy is stable, and by all reports, we are about to experience the first growth in this economy going in the right direction. Going in the right direction. You know, whether we like it or not, any government of Trinidad and Tobago having any chance of creating any possibility of a comfortable or even a surviving mode life in Trinidad and Tobago, our God-given gift in this country is the energy sector, oil and gas. That's how we have it. We have that. So whatever else we do, we have to make sure that we get maximum from that. And this government from day one understood that. And that is why one of the first things I got as a message from you was to fix the problems in the energy sector and stop trying to run the country on lies. Because lies catch up with you eventually, you know. Those people who were telling this country that the shortage of gas in Trinidad and Tobago was as a result of maintenance work being done in the energy sector, and as soon as the maintenance was over, the gas will begin to flow again and there'll be no shortage. That is what they were telling us. Prime Minister, Energy Minister, Finance Minister. Now we knew differently. We knew differently. So when we came into office, We knew that it was an unavailability of gas in pipe to go to Point Lisas. So the message you sent us is to prevent Point Lisas plants from shutting down and do what has to be done to get more gas to flow to Point Lisas. That is happening now because your government heard your message and acted upon it. We have gas contracts in place now. We have turned around and the gas is now almost at 4 billion cubic feet. That's all the government does. Many of you would know that the vast majority of jobs in this country, in the public service, gazetted public officers, and let me make it very clear, not everybody on the government payroll is a public servant. Public servants are those persons who got jobs on the establishment, who are gazetted, and those who are on contract in the public service. For those public servants who are part of the country's establishment in the ministries, so it doesn't matter which government come in after election day, they have the job in place because they are part of the establishment. Even as there was this tremendous collapse on the revenue side, and even as we had to borrow to service the country to get us over the most difficult hurdle, the government that I lead, understanding and having confidence in a future for Trinidad and Tobago, we have not embarked in any retrenchment or mass retrenchment of public servants in Trinidad and Tobago. And even as we have done that, there are people in this country who go in front of the microphone and get themselves photographed and get themselves printed saying that the government is engaging in mass retrenchment of public servants. Lie. Some contract officers' contracts would have come to an end, or their use may not have been required, so we have suffered some loss of some contract workers. But how do you expect in a significant reduction in revenues to have no reduction at all on the payroll? You think it's magic? But by and large, we have maintained employment levels across the government payroll. In fact, some people criticize us for not cutting the government payroll more drastically to bring the deficit between expenditure and revenue closer so as to not engage in any borrowing that would risk runaway debt in Trinidad and Tobago. But we can't please everybody. We're balancing the situation, preserving those jobs, because every job that is lost could be a family that won't be fed. We've preserved the entire social support system. There's nobody in this country who was on the social support system in September 2015 who is not on it now because the government has cut the allocation for persons with challenges, persons on old age pension, persons with a family support system. They're all in place. And the social support ministry is still a ministry receiving significant billions that is just passed on to individuals at the family level. That's what the country has done. And I'm not doing it for me, or I didn't do it for myself. That is how the country has treated with our challenges. But those who are aspiring to office, the only thing they could do is badmouth the country, lie about what is happening, even when they know it is not even going to be believable. They just lie as a matter of course. It's a matter of course. And then, of course, you told us that all of us are exposed to chronic criminal activity in Trinidad and Tobago. If you hear them talk today, you would think that criminal conduct and violent action in Trinidad and Tobago, where people are being killed willy-nilly, had started when I came into office in September. So Rowley came into office, and some of them are actually saying it is because the PNM is in office why crime is run away. Let me remind you all, take you to the Bible of corruption, right? Let me take you to page 79 in the Bible of Corruption 2010 to 2015. One of the January 4th, 2015, on the way out, because if you listen to Kamala Prasad Bisesa, she'll be telling you over and over that crime fell to the lowest level when she was in office, and she and Ram Logan had crime under control, and of course, for the lowest level for 31 years. Lie. January 4, 2015, 10 murders in 4 days. That is what was happening in early 2015. 10 murders in 4 days. Turn the page. The bloodletting continues. January 6th, 14 murders in 6 days. That is January. And by September, she was out of office and nothing had changed significantly. That is what we inherited. Unfortunately, we are saying that we have not been able to eliminate this from our society. The criminal element is still a major threat to our well-being. And of course, we have all kinds of problems with the response to the criminal element, not having been worsened by some of the actions of the same person who today is the biggest crime talker in Trinidad and Tobago. You shut down our ability to protect our borders. You sell the blimp for $50,000 even though we buy it for $14 million. You fired 22 of the best trained officers in the information gathering section. You put your partner, your friend to head the SIA unqualified. You do all manner of evil. And on the way out, I told you all this. You know, I want you all to bear with me a little bit, because I have developed a patience that I didn't know I had. I went to Australia because I spoke to the Prime Minister of Australia in London a few weeks ago. We were there for the heads of government meeting. And we had a meeting on the side of the conference. And I explained to the Prime Minister of Australia the predicament of Trinidad and Tobago on the issues we're just discussing here. And I asked him whether Australia would be able to try to assist us out of our circumstance. Because we are required to do two things where Australia can help. One, we need to strengthen our Coast Guard to protect our southern, eastern, and northeastern border. Because we have no vessel in our Coast Guard that could stand off on the East Coast for a number of days. In fact, some of them can't even go out there for hours. So in other words, we are not protecting our eastern flank. We have Venezuela to the west of us, to the south of us, to the east of us, and you know what Venezuela is. So we just sit here and have our open East Coast. And also, we have Tobago, which can play a much larger role in our national economy as we talk about diversification. But Tobago will be hamstrung if we're forever limping along and don't have a proper sea link between Trinidad and Tobago. So we need new ferries between Trinidad and Tobago, but the government of Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have the cash to make that expenditure on both items at this point in time. The Prime Minister of Australia agreed to help and immediately started working on how they could help. One, the vessel that we have now, the Spirit and the Express, are Australian vessels. We bought them used, and you know the story with them. Fortunately, we got one back into service now at great expense, and it is running. The other one is due to go, and we are looking at great expense to bring that other one in. We have to make decisions there. But Australia has a fund that the government has put in place to assist people like us who want to access what they produce in Australia. So we have needs, the fund is there. We have a government that's supporting us through their export system. So we go to Australia, and in a matter of days, we have their commitment to help us get out of our situation. Minister Young just told you, we have received presentations from the producing companies, and very soon, the government of Trinidad and Tobago that you, the people elected, will take a decision as to what we do, and we are going to do it. We will place an order for new ferries for the Trinidad and Tobago route. And we will place an order for a new, what they call a Cape class vessel, a 58-meter vessel for the Coast Guard for Trinidad and Tobago. So it started with me on your behalf talking to Prime Minister Turnbull and the Foreign Minister of Australia. It continued with me meeting them in the office in Australia and their teams of people in Australia and their agencies with Minister Young and Minister Moses, and we worked our interests and their interests together. It continued with me as head of the National Security Council and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, sending the head of the Defence Force, head of the Coast Guard and Coast Guard engineering personnel to Australia to see what is available to us and to see whether they, the professionals in our Coast Guard, approve of the direction the government is going. I can tell you, they have gone, they have seen, and they're on board. And that is how we are going to end up with a vessel that will go off the East Coast and has a 30-day endurance. Means that that vessel could leave. That vessel could leave our shores and spend 30 days patrolling, choosing where to be night and day to surprise anybody who's coming in. Today we have no such vessel. But that was the procurement process. I want to ask Kamala Bissessa and Wade Back and Ramdeen, what was the procurement process that they used to buy the vessel from China that park up in Tetron that can't go no way? The supply vessel. Totally unsuited for the purpose. The vessel is there, but it cannot be used where it is supposed to be used because it was not the vessel for that purpose. But I tell you what, when we came into office, the vessel was already at sea coming to us, unpaid for. We had to pay $200 million for it. Park up that cannot be used. And against that background, I have to listen to them, trying to incite the public that this government doesn't care about crime and fighting crime and protecting our borders when they are guilty of that. I'll tell you worse than that. They gave the instruction for that vessel to sail from China, the same China that they're cussing now because we bought the Gallon Passage there. They bought that vessel for the Coast Guard from China. The vessel had no ammunition on it. All it had on it when they gave the order for it to sail were some Trinidad and Tobago personnel and some Chinese personnel, totally unarmed, sailing through pirate-infested waters to Trinidad. The first issue I had to deal with as Prime Minister was to ask some of our foreign friends to try and protect that vessel so it could come to Trinidad. That is their record. That is their record. But they are big advisors now. So tonight, I want to tell Kimberly Small and Janelle Young that you represent the best in the political offering in Trinidad and Tobago because we are the best for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And every time there's an election, some people go by a rum shop and form a party and put up a candidate and so on. Okay, that is their record. We in the PNM, we have been doing this for over 60 years, and that is why the people of Trinidad and Tobago are where they are today, because the PNM stands with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and you are our standard bearer. They're coming to Belmont. Let me tell you how they view you, the people of Belmont. They're coming to Belmont. They can't hold themselves up with any record of performance or integrity to you. Put up placard and lamppost. If you lost your food card, or if you lost your 10 days, vote for the UNC. That is not a basis to vote crooks into office. That's how they see you, hungry belly and no integrity, so you lost your food card. I will tell you, Minister Chrysler Coburn will tell you, as Jack Warner told us that they were giving away food cards by the ton load from the car trunk, and you know it. I know one family with a mother and two daughters. The two daughters had degrees and were employed, and the three of them were on food cards. When Minister Coburn under this government invited persons on food card to renew their food card, thousands of persons didn't show up. You know why? Because they weren't supposed to be on the food card in the first place. So the message we got from you was to clean up that corruption. The corruption wasn't only at the top, it was right down to the plate on the food card under the UNC. And have the gall to come here in Belmont and tell decent people, if you lost your food card, vote UNC. Well, I will say to you, if you want to have a chance in Trinidad and Tobago, you keep the UNC out of office and you vote the People's National Movement. You know, to build infrastructure. Even as we have challenges with our revenue, even as they're preventing us from collecting a simple revenue like property tax. Trinidad and Tobago is the only democratic country in the world where citizens who own property don't pay some kind of tax to service their community. Call it whatever you want. Land and building tax, property tax, whatever, is a tax on property. And all of them who own property abroad, they're first in line to pay property tax out there, you know. First in line in Florida to pay for the ill-begotten goods because they know that it is a tax that is reasonable. We have lost billions of dollars by their foolishness, and they believe that by taking the position that they are against property tax, that you will vote them into office. But I am of the view that the vast majority of people in this country are honest, decent, right-thinking people who will pay that tax knowing that it will contribute to the quality of life and the well-being of their community. So, we have infrastructure to build. When they had money, they didn't build it. But even without the kind of flow of funds that they had, we still are aiming to build that infrastructure because much of the infrastructure contributes also to some economic activity. As I speak to you now, what are we trying to build? Well, we built the Brian Lara Stadium. It's available for use. The CPL starts in a few weeks. The finals will be here again in Trinidad and Tobago. When we completed that, after it was left abandoned for 5 years, they thief out everything that was nailed down inside there. We had to go and replace it and build it, but we finished it. We finished it, so the country now has an international class stadium hosting the Caribbean Professional League. 2015, they were hosting the finals in the Oval. $4 million they gave to that. And when we came into office, the message we got from you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, is we're not doing that again. The parties came to me and they came to our representatives demanding that we fund them in a similar vein again. Otherwise, they will sue the government because they have a contract. I appointed Brian Lara to be our negotiator, and I told Brian, tell them to sue the government as soon as they're ready. But on the other hand, if they want to be upright and straightforward with us, we will cooperate with them and we'll contribute as a reasonable amount of money towards the finals. They try to bully us. Oh, if you don't give them the money, they'll take the finals. I said, well, take it somewhere else now. And they try to take it somewhere else. They go to Guyana and stay in Guyana and tell us, if we don't pay them the money here in Trinidad, Guyana will take the finals. I said, thank you, Guyana, take it. Of course, Guyana was never in line to take it. It ended up in St. Kitts. Remember that one? And they had, but in the end, it ended up back in Trinidad and Tobago. We are now paying them $1 million in local currency and in kind, and we have the finals for 3 years. So you understand the message we got from you and how you benefit by having elected a PNM government? The highway to Point 14, we had your cash tied up in bonds by a contractor who they were protecting. You had to elect us to office. We had to go to court in London and elsewhere to fight the contractor to get back for you $950 million. People of Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not talking about $950, you know. I'm not talking about $9 million, you know. I'm talking about $950 million which were there, your money paid to the contractor by Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisasa, Rambachan and the cabinet, which they thought they were going home with. Tonight, here in St. Francois College, in the constituency of a member of Parliament, Stuart Young, If Stuart Young has done nothing for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, fighting that fight and winning that battle, take a bow, Stuart Young. $950 million. We are spending that money now, hiring contractors. The work is underway, and we are spending it and getting road building for it. But they thought they had protected it, you know. What they did, the last working day before the election, Rambachan and his ministry removed from the contract the clause that said, if the contractor has gone bankrupt, as the contractor had gone bankrupt, that wasn't the case for the government to cancel the contract. They thought they had protected the contractor, but they didn't cater for the people of Port of Spain North, electing Stuart Young, and they didn't cater for a PNM government coming into office and Capo smoked the pipe. You see, today is a red letter day. Today is the day of the National Investment Fund. We launched today the National Investment Fund, an outcome of the last general election. Because you see, they were owing $23 billion. They bungled somewhere and were forced by an arbitrator to sell the methanol plant. And from that order of the arbitrator, the methanol plant was sold and we got back $8 billion. That was the only money we got back in the CLICO arrangement, because an arbitrator found that the government had acted improperly, ruled in favor of the minority shareholder, and forced the government to sell the methanol plant to the minority shareholder, and that's how we got back $8 million. $15 billion was still out there jumping up in steel band. I'm not talking about $15. I'm not talking about $15 million. I'm not talking about $1.5 billion. I am talking about $15,000 million in private hands, in private control, your money. So as a result of electing this government and sending me a message to get back your interests, this government engaged in a battle. And we won that battle. And today, $8 billion in assets are under control of the government. It is from the victory of that battle that today we could have put available for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago at the individual level, at the corporate level, at the pension fund, at the UTC, at the NIB. The Minister of Finance is going to raise $4 billion backed by these $7.9 billion of assets. And you think that would be good news to them? No. They have to find some way to lie about that. It's a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is a pyramid, right? Where somebody brings money, and the money that comes 4 o'clock, pay the person who was there 2 o'clock, and the money that comes 6 o'clock, pay the 4 o'clock person, and when the line ends, the pyramid boss. That is what it is. And that is the description of a former prime minister who oversaw 2 ministers of finance lie to you, the people, and tell that they have settled the CLICO matter. Yes, they have settled it, but they leave $15 billion in steel band outside there. Tonight, I am proud to be the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago that led the charge. And if nothing else happens as a result of the tenure of this government, we have brought back to the people of Trinidad and Tobago billions of dollars of assets that otherwise would have been lost to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because when they told us to get off the board and that they wouldn't sign the agreement to cover the bailout, what they were saying to us is, we're not repaying the money, and you, the people, could go to hell. But standing in the gap for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, was the government that you elected. And that is why, when you come out in Barataria on Monday, and you come out in Belmont on Monday, that is what you are voting to support, a government that stands with you. And high and low, we are recovering money stolen from you, you know. Somewhere in East Port of Spain, some individual call himself a contractor, an accountant. He have $18 million of your money in his personal bank account. Well, we have gone to court and we got that frozen. We're getting that back. 18 million. That is the level of corruption that was flourishing under the UNC with the encouragement of persons, who today mysteriously move from ordinariness to billionaires in Trinidad and Tobago. I could tell you something. This by-election here in Belmont, we have not paid one soul $1 to walk with any candidate in Belmont. They're paying $400 a person to make noise. They have so much money they're paying people. I'll tell you something. We in the PNM, we understood that in this politics, money can't buy you love. In Tobago in 2013, they spent $60 million. They were paying drivers $1,000 a day, paying people $400 a day to wear a jersey, and election night, PNM win all 12 seats. They build, and coming here, imagine Jolene John and Kamala Prasad Bissessa coming here in Belmont and the Bart area and telling people, Rowley doesn't care for you. It is because I care about you, your children and your grandchildren, why we are doing the things I just told you, because we want to give them a future in Trinidad and Tobago. That is caring. Let me tell you how Kamala Prasad Bissessa and her band of merry people care for you. I take you to page 68 of this document. The record of the performance of Kamala Prasad Bissessa is called The Patriot's Guide to Why Never Again. Page 69. Page 68, 69. SIS, from bankruptcy to billions. And this is no joke. Mr. Hines is here tonight. He was in the parliamentary committee when revelations in Parliament that Super Industrial Services, SIS, a firm reputed to be a financial supporter of the People's Partnership, went from bankruptcy in 2010 to receiving over $2 billion in contracts awarded by the Kamala Prasad Bissessa government in 4 years. And if you think we're just talking for talk's sake, let me walk you through some of those awards. Let's start at the beginning. Let me start by Kamala House in Philippines. As soon as she became Prime Minister, she became the occupant of a palace in Philippines, built by SIS. And when the contract was going on, you may recall those of us who were in the parliament in the opposition were pointing out that SIS had painted off the name on his equipment so nobody would know he was building the Prime Minister house. Start with that. $2 million for Los Bajos beach facility. Now, this was a company that was bankrupt as per the parliamentary records. $2 million for Los Bajos beach facility. $5 million California Youth Facility. $5 million NGC Corporate Campus. $3.2 million Gasparillo Park Recreation Ground. $9.5 million Lower Comuto Recreation Ground. $25 million Cuba Presal Interchange. $8.4 million Arima Wastewater Plant. $130 million Pinal Recreation Ground. $6.8 million Lunch Park in Wassa. $100 million from Sport Company thereabouts Mervyn Park Recreation Ground. $202 million for the Motor Vehicle Authority. $3.5 million Sandy Grande Hospital. $1.7 million Malik Secondary School. $12 million CISL. $24 million Kanhai Presbyterian School. $1.5 million New Grand Primary School. $15 million Fabo Village. $1.6 million Wassa. $1.2 billion Betham wastewater treatment plant. That is caring Kamala Prasad Bissessa style. Nowhere in this government is there a record of good luck like this. So I can't argue. SIS knows about Kamala's caring. And the minute the government changed, from that day till now, SIS had never been seen in this country. All of a sudden, they have no interest in contracts in this country again. I'll tell you what your government did. You sent us a message to do what we can in this situation. And you know what we did? We froze $180 million of SIS assets in Trinidad and Tobago while they're hiding in Panama. In the law courts of Trinidad and Tobago, $180 million of assets are frozen in response to this largesse directed to this contractor by the Kamala Prasad business government. So you understand why they could come in Belmont and walking around in Puss in Boots that cost whatever. I'm trying to tell you, put them in office, and when they get back in office, they will share the spoils with you. And more importantly, they want to get back in office to prevent the government from going after the corruption that we are going after now. So if any of you believe that they want to get back in government to serve you, you have their record from 2010 to now. But what is really panicking them is the fact that this government is going after the public interest. And many of them are standing between the government's effort and the courthouse door. Where in the history of Trinidad and Tobago have you ever seen so many government ministers entangled with the law coming out of a government? Well, it's not Jack Warner, it's Ramdeen. When it's not Ramdeen, it's Ram Logan. When it's not Ram Logan, it's Munilal. When it's not Munilal, it's Jolin John. And that same group of people believe that you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, would put on the clothes on Monday morning, leave home, and go in the polling station and vote them into office in this country. They somehow believe that you will do that because you are not concerned about what is contained in this book or what I just told you. We, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, acting on your behalf, having got the message you sent us, we have gone into the HDC. Jolin John has a case in the courthouse to answer where we have found a public officer who received a bribe and has valued a piece of land $120 million more than it was worth. And they paid the money out and distributed among themselves. That money has now leaked back into Belmont asking for votes. And they believe that you, in your right mind, with your eyes wide open, will go and look at a ballot paper and put an X next to the UNC. Well, if you do that, you will do it of your own volition. My grandfather was very conscious of our experience in slavery. And he used to tell me, slavery lasted for so long with the active involvement of a few of the slaves. And I used to ask him, well, you could say that. He said, well, when the fellas were planning to run away or to burn down the arrangements, one or two of them used to go and tell Master, you see them fellas? They're planning to run away, you know. You understand me? You understand what I mean? There are a few people who, against all logic, would still think that what the UNC has done is something that they could ignore, or worse, could support. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we have had such a bad experience that on behalf of the children and the grandchildren, if not on your own behalf, just make sure that you don't saddle us with that again. You gave us a message. You gave us a message to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago's image in the international arena is improved. You gave us a message that we are to protect our CARICOM market. And that is why in November, we are hosting here in Trinidad and Tobago a major meeting on the single market and the economy to try and ensure that we protect the existence of the CARICOM market as a single market and economy, a vision that we want for our future and for our children's future. But they had it taken off the agenda And for the entire period since 2011, the single market and the economy was not on the agenda of the CARICOM conference. But then they have Duppy playing he's expert in foreign affairs, right? And trying to ask us what we have done and what we haven't done. And everything they're asking you is about an area that they have failed spectacularly. Spectacularly they have failed in those areas, but there's nothing like an election defeat to have made you an expert on matters. So all of a sudden, they know what has to be done, what must be done, how it should be done, but that again is their right. Ladies and gentlemen, we of the PNM, we are not in this for Balizi House or for ourselves. We are in this business of political activity to give Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's at the local level or at the national level, in local election or in general election, we are in it to give the people of Trinidad and Tobago the best chance of performing at the best. We campaigned when we last had Councillor Bruno with us and Councillor Rajpal. We campaigned on the whole question of local government reform. The linchpin in effecting local government reform was allowing local government bodies to be responsible for collecting all the property taxes within their borders and to use that tax to reform the way they provide goods and services to you, the burgesses. We won that election. We have a mandate to do that. We have not been able to do it because we have been engaged in legal battle and obstruction by the UNC in preventing the government from operationalizing the property tax law. But we stay in the course. We stay in the course because we know eventually we'll be able to collect those taxes and make it available to local government so that your executive and people like the ones you're going to elect on Monday will have that resource to service you, the people in your community. You have to ask yourself, why is it they are so hell-bent on preventing this tax from being collected? In a situation where revenue is in short supply, preserving jobs is a priority, servicing you at local government, there is not enough money to go around, but there's some money to be collected there. What is their problem? They believe that you are so inclined that if they tell you, well, we wouldn't collect the tax, you will ignore everything else and you will vote for them. I'm saying to you tonight, you have a decision to make that is reasonable and personal. You think they stopped there? You think they stopped there? They went up to El Socorro, started one race talk in El Socorro because they believe in polling division 1405, where there are a lot of Muslims, that a race talk and a race war against the PNM will give them the seat. They are prepared to risk the country's social, religious, and ethnic stability to win one local government seat. It's 147 seats? 147 seats? One. But of course, I understand the problem. If you lose 8 times in a row, you can't risk time number 9, eh? But of course, at what price? At the price of telling Muslims in El Socorro that the Anti-Terrorism Act is anti-Muslim and the government attacking Muslims. Not that the country needs to prevent people who will hurt us. I see one this morning telling me I must be careful what I say because I said that the massacre in Chagaramas is akin to terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, if a man with an automatic weapon spray a crowd of innocent people trying to kill somebody and end up killing 3 people and 4 almost got killed and others could have been killed, this indiscriminate killing, isn't that what terrorism is? Indiscriminate killing of innocent participants, that is what it is. And I'll tell you something, there are guns in this country that can shoot many tens of rounds within a matter of seconds. So any person who is so disrespectful of life and disregard public places and people who are there going about their business with that weapon in hand could act like a terrorist acted in Belgium or in France or in Spain or in London. But in Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister mustn't say that because they don't like it. Well, if you don't like it, you could lump it, because I know what it is, and I know that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will stand with the government in fighting what is wrong, because we know what is wrong and we know what is right. And we will never sacrifice the racial, ethnic, or religious stability of Trinidad and Tobago in attempting to win an election, a constituency, or a local government seat, because we are the people's national movement. I know many of you in Belmont and Barataria would be thinking that it's a by-election, so it's not important. And the record will show that people don't normally come out to vote in by-elections in any significant way. But I'm saying to you, it's important enough to take the 2 hours that you are entitled to, because every person in these 2 areas, if you are employed, you are entitled to 2 hours to go and vote. Act responsibly, take your 2 hours, go out and vote in support of what the government is trying to do for you and your children. You already have good reason to vote against certain people and their record. But I'm giving you reason to vote for the PNM, because it is the PNM that is giving us the best chance to deal with all the challenges in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. Whether it's the challenge of good governance, a challenge of fighting crime, a challenge of growing the economy, stabilizing the economy, preserving jobs, diversifying the economy, and just ensuring that there's peace, good order, and prosperity. It is the people's national movement, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, that gives you that chance. So, in Barataria, look for the symbol of the Balize, and you'll meet Kimberly Small as your representative right there. In Belmont, look for the symbol, as usual, the Balize, and you'll meet Janelle Young right there. Nicole Young, right there. Nicole Young is right there by the Balize. If you can't remember the name, just remember the symbol, the Balize. So, as I go to Tobago tomorrow morning, I'll come back on Monday and I'll join you for the results. And I have every confidence that the people of Trinidad and Tobago could recognize where your interests and where your future lies. Thank you very much.